be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 15th part of, What If Ichigo Enters KUROINU? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Takamagara 2012 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Welcome home, Lady Isis. The butler greeted her. I see you met a friend along the way, milady. The maid added. May we ask who he is? Of course. Isis smiled as she turned to Seishin. Seishin, this is my butler, Roderick, and my maid, Maria. Roderick, Maria. This is Seishin, he's the man who defeated KUROINU in Salinas. And he's a king there as well. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Roderick and Miss Maria. Seishin bowed back, which Roderick and Maria smiled as they bowed to him. Likewise, Your Majesty. Maria replied. Any friend of Isis, is a friend of ours. Please come inside, make yourselves at home. Roderick added as he and Maria allowed them inside. Seishin was amazed at how appealing the place was on the inside. He took a moment to look around, before he was called by Isis to follow her to her mother's room on the second floor. King Seishin. Roderick called him. No need for formalities, you can be comfortable with calling me Seishin. Seishin kindly replied. Understood, sir. Roderick kindly answered. Since you're here, would you like anything to drink? I would love a glass of water with ice, please. Seishin answered, to which Roderick kindly replied with a nod before leaving for the kitchen. At the same time, Seishin and Isis both arrived at her mother's room. Mother, I'm coming in. Isis said as she stepped inside. Isis, welcome home. Her mother answered. How was everything so far? So far, it's doing well. She answered. I also brought a guest here to see you. Isis motioned Seishin to come inside. When he did, he saw her mother in her bed. She was just as endowed as her daughter, blue eyes, sandy blonde wavy hair, her skin was pale, but still retains her beauty. Seishin, this is my mother, Eliza Elenskaya. Queen of Ostasia. Isis said as she introduced her mother to him. A queen. That means you're a princess, too. Seishin was quite surprised for a moment while Isis simply blushed and looked to the side. Yeah, pretty much. Isis replied, followed by a sheepish laugh. You're full of surprises, Isis. And I like it. Seishin calmly smirked at her, impressed at this new surprise. Hello, young man. Eliza greeted him. Her warm caring smile displayed her beauty so prepossessing. Hello to you, too, Miss Eliza. Seishin greeted her. Your daughter has told me so much about you and your father. How you two inspired her to become who she is now. My father was the one who carried the full weight, able to make ends meet, Seishin. Isis said before she turned to her mother. Mother, not only Seishin is our new general, but he's also the king of Salinas. He came all this way here to help us. You're a king. Eliza gasped for a second before she coughed so strong. Isis rushed to aid as Maria and Roderick arrived with Seishin's water and 2 glasses of tea, one for Isis and the other for Eliza. Yes, ma'am. I am, but enough about me, I am also here, because I want to do something for you. Seishin replied, which made Eliza gaze at the red-haired young man. He walked towards a chair placed next to her, before he softly sat down. Isis told me everything. He continued, looking at her with sadness in his eyes. About her childhood, the siblings you lost, which I offer my deepest sympathies. She also told me that your husband helped arrange a marriage between Motair and Isis, in order to keep the wealth and support for your recovery. Yes. Eliza said sadly after she took a sip of her tea and set it down on the cabinet. My daughter's time with that man was anything but pleasurable. Every time she came home, she was in tears. My husband meant well, but if only he was alive to see the outcome that's happening. If I may add, Seishin. Roderick approached the young man as he kindly handed him his glass of water. Just recently, he gave Lady Isis a choice. Either she submits to him and be his wench, or he'll cut the funds and force us to leave. I do not want us to leave this place. Maria said. I don't want this family to be penniless. Seishin listened to everyone's words. Eliza, being a noble herself, wants what's left of her family to live on. Roderick and Maria love both of the ladies and how they treated them like part of the family. Isis, afraid of losing everything and being back to struggling to survive, like when they moved to Adelan from their old home of Astasia. The young man tightened his fists, feeling the verbal pain they're sharing with him. The young man took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He opened his eyes as he looked at Eliza, then to Roderick and Maria, and then to Isis. He then made his decision. None of you won't be leaving this place. I have an idea. Seishin said, which got everyone's attention before walking over to see an easel with a paintbrush dipped in black paint. He then draws symbols upon his arms, hands, and the ground towards the wall where the easel is. Holding his palms out in front of himself, he generates a glowing rectangular box and performs various hand movements to create various root-like extensions in the air, which connect to the glowing rectangle. Placing his hands up to the rectangle, Seishin activates the spell. Beikado number 77. Tentiakura. He cried, causing the root-like extensions to glow and create a network extending out from the rectangle. Seishin immediately uses the spell to connect with King Hegel. Whoa! I forgot that you mentioned that you're a soul reaper. Isis said, which made Seishin chuckle. Back at the king's palace, Hegel was eating his dinner, minding his own business. As he was about to sink his teeth in his steak dinner, Seishin's voice reached out to him. King Hegel. It's Seishin. Seishin called him. Sorry for calling you so suddenly. I wanted to ask you a question. Oh, Seishin. Hegel replied. No need to apologize. You can ask me what you have in mind. Is it possible to rearrange an arranged marriage with someone else, the young man asked, or have someone with a higher power cancel it? It is possible. Hegel kindly replied. What do you have in mind? I want to cancel Isis's arranged marriage with Motair. Seishin said, which surprised everyone. He's treating her and her family like CRP, and I can't stand by and let him go on with this any longer. I see. Please let me speak to Isis. Hegel said as Seishin motioned her to approach the glowing rectangle and speak. He calmly nodded, letting her speak. She felt a little hesitant going through with this, until she remembered what Seishin and Roxanne shared the other day. Flashback. Isis, you're stronger than you think. Seishin said as Isis then looked up at him. Isis. You're not weak. Roxanne said, getting her attention. I was once weak myself, and like you, I was in an arranged marriage with Irboin. My love life was terrible, I will admit. Not a day goes by wishing I would be loved, until the day Seishin saved me. He filled my heart with love once again. You did? Isis turned back to Seishin. Yeah, it was no big deal. Seishin brushed the back of his head, blushing a light pink. I didn't like how Irboin was treating her, so I opened myself up to her, just like what I'm doing now. Like I said before, Isis. You are not weak. You're strong, brave, appealing, smart. Me, be appealing. Isis stammered over her words after Seishin complimented her. She tried to think of something else to say but her blushing fit denied her of her thoughts. All in all, Isis. You are a strong, independent woman. Seishin continued. Don't let such petty insults from anyone else weigh you down. So be strong for me, okay? Flashback ended. Isis looked at Seishin as he shared a warm, caring smile with her, remembering what he told her that day. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and approached Seishin, still feeling a little less nervous, as she placed her left hand on his right shoulder. Your Majesty. Isis called out to him. Isis, you don't want to be with Motair any longer, do you not? Hegel asked her. No, Your Highness. Isis shyly answered. My father and Prime Minister Reuben arranged this marriage with Motair. Every day, I've been treated like garbage in his eyes, no matter how strong I tried to make him see me differently. He's even cheated on me with 2 other women. I can't stand being with that heartless man any further. I can feel your pain through the power of your voice, Isis. Hegel responded. Motair may be a loyal bodyguard, but I've seen how he acted to others, even to you. For that, I'm truly sorry. If being with Motair means being ridiculed, cheated on, and treated like dirt, then I would rather be penniless and free. Isis added. Isis, I shall grant you your wish. By the power vested in me, Isis's arrangement with Motair to be cancelled. Hegel announced, which Isis and the others were happy to hear. Seishin, I'll leave the rest to you. Thank you, Your Highness. Seishin happily replied before he ended the communication. Isis, I will gladly share my wealth with all of you. It's yours to use to your heart's content. Seishin. I don't know what to say. Isis said, which made Seishin smile, before he approached Eliza. He knelt down before her as he took her hand. What are you about to do? Isis looked at Seishin before he turned to her. A calm nod was his response to her before she remembered what Seishin said, it's a surprise, Isis. And I want you to be surprised when it happens, were the words she remembered him saying. As everyone watched him, they were surprised to see BLD red stripes appear on his body, looping over each other at the same time, marking him in a tribal fashion like before. BLD red eyeshadow appeared on the outer layer of his eyes as well as a small red diamond-shaped mark on his forehead. This power of mine, it's a curse only I have. It's been passed down from my grandfather to me. Miraculously, my parents weren't affected. Seishin said. It's an equivalent exchange, meaning I will offer some of my life energy, and a part of me to help her. Seishin. Isis said as she looked at Seishin before he returned his sight to Eliza. Don't worry, Eliza. I will free you from your sickness. Now, Sebastopol. Seishin cried as the marks on his body glowed red as Sebastopol was activated. Seishin felt the stinging pain of the cursed ability gripping his heart like before, but he mustered up such strength to push through it. He closed his eyes before Eliza felt the warmth of Seishin's spirit energy flowing through her before it seeped into her body. In mere seconds, her skin color was restored, her breathing returned to normal, and her strength restored. Eliza was finally cured of her sickness. She moved herself out of her bed, and stood up on her feet. She took a moment to regain her posture before she was able to take her first steps. Everyone was happy to see Eliza cured, and Isis finally got to hug her mother, feeling her mother snuggling against her for the first time in so long. Seishin, I don't know how to then Isis was going to thank Seishin, before they saw the marks on his body stopped glowing and then faded into his body, and to everyone's surprise, his right arm was gone due to Sebastopol. Everyone saw him feeling wobbly before he began to fall over. They all rushed to help Seishin back up before his face met with the ground. Seconds after, he slowly woke up and saw everyone looking at him with worried looks. Seishin, are you alright? Eliza asked him. Yeah. Sabatial can really drain a person. Seishin replied before he turned to notice his right arm was gone. Looks like I've been disarmed. He chuckled weakly, before he stood back up. How can you be laughing at a time like this? Isis asked him with concern. Seishin looked at her as his smile went away for a moment. Seishin calmly nodded before he returned to his calm happy-go-lucky attitude. Remember, Isis. I told you that I'm both a soul reaper and a hollow. So I also have the ability to regenerate body parts. Observe. Seishin closed his eyes before a red and black aura seeped out of his stump of an arm. In seconds, Seishin's arm was restored completely and the aura was absorbed into his arm. He then flexed his newly restored arm to make sure everything's working right. Seishin, no amount of thank you can repay you for all you have done. Eliza said as she approached and embraced him in a hug. Seishin closed his eyes and hugged her back. Isis smiled warmly with tears running down her face. You're welcome. All of you. Seishin replied before they all hugged the young man. I'll call Celestine, Kachu and the others when I get back and I'll send you all you need. Mother, Seishin is going to fight Glattus tomorrow afternoon. Isis said. He needs to get ready. I understand. Maria, would you kindly guide him to our guest bathroom and help him freshen up? Understood, MSTRS. Maria kindly replied before she turned to Seishin. Please come with me, Seishin. Seishin kindly nodded before he followed Maria into the guest bathroom. When he got there, he was amazed at how thoroughly designed the place was. He even was amazed at how the bathtub looks. It was just as big as a sauna. Whoever built this place must have come from the eastern side of the world, were the words he thought. He was really impressed, until he quickly snapped back to reality when he saw Maria undressing him and gazing at his scarred torso. He was going to stop her, but it seems she likes to help him, since he helped them. So he let her continue, until he was bare naked. At the same time, 2 other maids walked in and took his clothes to get cleaned. Please step into the water, MSTR Seishin. Maria kindly said, which he nodded before stepping into the tub. The water was just right, not too hot or cold. He sank his body deep into the water until only his neck and head was sticking out. This house has everything. Whoever designed this house and this bathroom, has good taste. Seishin said. Thank you very much for your kind words, Seishin. Maria happily replied as she took her clothes off and set it nearly aside. She then took a rag and walked in the water. You're welcome. Eliza and Isis are happy to have people like you and Roderick here. It makes this family feel calm. Seishin's words were cut off as he felt something soft pressing against his back. As he turned around, only to see Maria naked with a warm smile on her face. Seishin's eyes widened and blushed a dark red when she saw her creamy skin, her large melons and slightly chubby, yet curvy figure. Please, Seishin. Allow me to wash you. Maria said as she smiled with her eyes closed. Seishin's gasps of surprise were quickly replaced with a warm smile of his own before he nodded, letting her wash him. She led Seishin to the edge of the tub before she started cleaning him. Maria lathered the soap in her rag, until it was full of suds. She then started with washing his back with the rag for a brief minute. He closed his eyes, letting his body relax as Maria washed him. Reminds him of when his mom washed him when he was little. His thoughts were then cut off when he felt something soft brushing against his back. He turned to see Maria's soapy melons brushing up and down his back. Sweet Cammy, they're soft. Seishin thought as he continued to feel Maria's melons scrubbing his back clean. As she washed his back, her tips began to peek out and harden. The softness of her melons immediately made Seishin's groin slowly awaken. Once his backside was cleaned, she guided him to turn around. Seishin, could you turn around please, so I can wash your front side? Maria asked, which made him slightly nervous. Maria figured that his is fully irked. No need to be nervous, MSTR. It's just you and me. Seishin listened to Maria's words and it did lessen his nervousness. Before long, he turned around to look at Maria's appealing body, and she gazed at his tall tower. The blonde maid giggled before she resumed washing Seishin's body. After washing his arms, her soapy rag gently brushed against his chst. As she washed his chst, her breathing began to get a little heavy, her blush darkened and her smile never left. Without warning, Maria leaned in and kissed the young man, surprising him completely. Her soft lips pressed against his and her tongue wrapped around. The embrace lasted a full minute before she pulled her lips back. Forgive me, Seishin. I couldn't help myself. Maria shyly apologized. I wanted to repay you on their behalf for your kindness and for curing MSTR's Eliza. It's alright, Maria. I'm used to the surprise advances. Seishin chuckled sheepishly. Please, MSTR. Let me repay you for your kindness. Maria begged. It's the least I could do for you. Very well, Maria. You can continue. Seishin replied before watching Maria caress his in her hands. My, MSTR's thing is so big. Maria muttered aloud. It's so hot and stiff. Maria then wrapped her melons around his irked length before she started moving them up and down. Her hands cradled the underside of her endowed assets as she made his PP slide in and out of between her mountainous mammaries. She looked up at Seishin, who laid back enjoying the repayment Maria's giving him. My goddess. This feels so good. Seishin moaned a little loud, which made Maria smile. Then you would love this, MSTR. Maria said before she rubbed his tip with her hardened tips. The smile on Seishin's face was one of the things she liked from him. She added her tongue as she ate the tip while rubbing it with her pink buds. Shortly after, she wrapped his tip and her hardened buds in her mouth, simultaneously sousing on them with ease. The feel of it made Seishin's eyes roll back and his head snapped back. Seeing him in such bliss made Maria smile with joy. She resumed eating on his tip while sliding her melons up and down his irked glory, wanting more of his taste. Faster and harder, she continued to please him. At the same time, Seishin felt his hung member quickly reaching his peak, and Maria saw it all from the look of his face. MSTR. Please, let it out on me. I want you to spray it on my face. Maria thought as she went her fastest. Before long, Seishin grunted, spraying her face and chst with his seed. Wow, Maria. Seishin said as he tried to catch his breath. It pleases me to see you satisfied, MSTR Seishin. Maria replied with a warm smile on her face before she ate on his once more, cleaning off the remains of his mess. It was just delicious. After cleaning and pleasing Seishin, Maria helped him get dressed. The two met up with Isis, who was waiting patiently for him by the front door. We're happy to finally meet you, Seishin, but sad to see you go. Eliza said. She approached him wearing a light blue lace nightgown with white fluffy straps on her shoulders. Her nightgown also stretched down to her ankles, which had the same white fluff around it. I do understand that you have your upcoming duel tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, but once things are done, I'll gladly come and visit. Seishin said before turning to Isis. If it's alright with your daughter. You saved my mother and my family, Seishin. Isis smirked before she lightly jabbed his side with her elbow. You're always welcome here. My princess is right, you're always welcome here, young man. Eliza giggled before she leaned in and kissed his forehead, teasing him with a glimpse of her large melons. We'll also celebrate my daughter's freedom from that BSTRD, Motire, and your victory against Glattus. To top it off, you're the guest of honor. I'll be happy to come by. Seishin said. I'll see you then, Miss Eliza. Please call me, Eliza. She happily replied. Right. I'll see you then, Eliza. Seishin waved at Isis's mother before he and Isis left the house and took the carriage ride back to the castle. When they came back, Seishin invited Isis to join for dinner, which she happily accepted. As the two ate, Isis brought up a question. Seishin, are you sure you're able to fight Glattus tomorrow? She asked him. From what you told me, Sebastia drains some of your life force and sacrifices a body part to grant anyone's wish. You used it to cure my mother, but it left you weary from the strain. I'm worried that you might fail due to Sebastia's aftereffect. You're right. He answered. Even now, I'm still feeling some recoil from Sebastia. My body hurts a little from the strain. Still, I got to make this work. Besides, it's gonna take more than strain to break my spirit. One day, I'll break Sebastia's curse and use its power to aid others to my heart's content. Seishin. Isis looked at him with worry. I'm gonna be alright, Isis. Seishin said with a calm smile. I'll promise you, I'm going to be alright. You're right. I need to look at the positive. Isis said as she took a sip of her glass of wine. You cured my mother and saved my family from our pre-fated poverty. I wish there was a way for me to repay you. Just then, Seishin sensed something was off with Isis when she froze. His eyes spotted a light pink blush on her face, and the way she was tossing and turning with her body, resisting some sort of burning feeling swelling up inside her. Isis? Seishin called her. Please, don't look at me, Seishin. Isis said shyly as she looked away while her blush darkened. Shamsiel then appeared beside Seishin with a look of disappointment on her face. I went through the trouble of adding a super strong PHRDS in your drink. Shamsiel said as she watched Isis struggle to resist the PHRDS's powerful effects. I wanted you to take it, but Isis took it instead. Shamsiel. Seishin sighed as he covered his face with the palm of his right hand. Geez. I know where this song and dance is gonna end up. Sorry, Seishin. Shamsiel said as she looked down. Until she was given a hug by her MSTR. No need to say sorry, Shammy. Seishin said as he pets her head, earning a chuckle from her. After I help Isis, I'll gladly do it with you. That's why I love you, my darling MSTR. Shamsiel cried as she hugged the young man. Seishin, Isis struggles to fight off the effects of the PHRDS as best as she could. Her left hand rubbed her BRST, her right hand was placed between her soft thighs and her breathing became heavier. I can't hold it back anymore. No need to worry, Isis. I'll help. It was in a quick blur when Isis ran to Seishin and kissed him deeply. Her sea-green eyes met with Seishin's crimson-red orbs before the two were rushed into bed. Their clothes were thrown aside and Isis was on top of him. Her melons were dangling over him as the two gazed at each other's eyes. Seishin. Ever since we first met, you made me feel like I'm special. Like I'm a casual person here. Isis explained. You smiled when you gave me that fruit basket. You helped me when Motair struck me down and again when you were that masked man the other night, and now, you saved me and my family. Isis. I'm flattered, really. Seishin calmly smiled, showing off a light pink blush as he looked to the side. Seishin. Please touch me. Isis said. Seishin couldn't help but look at Isis's melons, before noticing her tips are inward. Regardless, he gently planted his palms on her mounds and his index fingers on her tips before massaging them, earning illicit gasps and moans from the blonde knight. Seishin continued to caress and massage Isis's melons with gentle ease. Seishin. And not there. Isis gasped as she warned him, regarding the way he's teasing her inward buds as they harden under his fingertips. He then freed his hands from her mounds before seeing her irked teeth before his eyes. After a moment of gazing, he gently pinched her hardened buds and continued to tease her a bit more. Wow! I can't believe Isis wants me so much. Much like the others I had courted with. Seishin thought. Just what the heck is driving these wonderful women to me? Hee hee. There's no pheromone in existence that can explain it, Seishin. Seishin's hollow said. You're just a good man with a good heart. Seishin mentally chuckled before he sat up to place his lips on her right brst. Isis began to an octave higher as Seishin kindly feasted on her bountiful bosom. His lips remained wrapped around her bud as he softly sucked on it while his tongue simultaneously ate and teased it. He continued for another minute before switching to her other brst, earning a from Isis. Isis's body rocked a little from the way Seishin's pleasing her melons. His eyes were suddenly widened when he felt her soft rear grinding against his growing bulge. Say Seishin. Please put it in. Isis begged. Seishin chuckled a little before teasing her a bit longer. I don't know how much you want it, Isis. Seishin said as he teased Isis by pinching her tips again. How badly do you want it? Seishin, please don't tease Ma. Please, I want it. I'm begging you. Isis begged before he leaned up and gently kissed her lips, surprising her for a second before she closed her eyes and wrapped her arms around him. Moments later, Isis fished out his tower and aligned it with her dripping wet lips. With a nod from each other, Isis pushed herself down on him, feeling his crotch moving deeper inside her until all of it was inside her. Seishin saw a pained look on her face before seeing blood leaking from her. He was surprised that Isis was a virgin, so he quickly kissed her to keep her calm while he used his spirit energy to heal her vaginal pain. Are you okay now, Isis? Seishin asked. I don't know what you did, but I am fine now, thanks to you. Isis replied with a smile before she began letting out more of her melodious moans as Seishin began bucking his hips. Isis felt his strong thrusts driving towards her core before she got on her hands, laying on top of Seishin while he softly sucked and teases her hardened buds. He understands that he has to knock Isis up to heal her from the PHRDS. So Seishin went harder and faster inside the blonde knight. Seishin. Too much. Isis continued to louder as Seishin drove his near her core. Sorry. I can't control it. Your insides feel so good. I don't think I can hold it in longer. Seishin said as his hips continued to move on their own. Lewd sloshing sounds were made as their hips met with each other. Her juices leaked out with each bounce her hips made, lightly drenching the blanket. You can't hold it in much longer. Then that's okay, let it out inside me. Isis said before she moaned, feeling Seishin's thick swelling up against her inner walls. Isis. I. As long as it's just you, then I won't mind. Isis said before she leaned in and kissed his lips. Isis. Seishin immediately groaned before filling her insides up to the brim. Isis, at the same time, gasped and moaned at the feel of his seed flooding her inner walls before Seishin quickly pulled it out. Isis's body twitched from her strong orgasm as their mixed batter leaked out of her. The two quickly gasped, catching their breaths. I wonder if the PHRDS has worn off by now. Seishin thought before he saw Isis sitting up on her knees, holding and showing him her melons, while gazing at him with loving, lustful eyes. Seishin. My tips. Please do my tips more. She cried before sandwiching his between her soft pillows, earning a new wave of moans. Wow. Isis, when have you had these feelings for me? He asked. Since the day you came. She answered. I wanted to tell you this, but Motair threatened me that if I am with another man, he'll cut off the funds. But now I can finally tell you my feelings, thanks to your kindness. Isis. Seishin looked at the blonde knight with a smile on his face, before he was succumbed by his moans as Isis proceeded to probe the tip of his by pressing her hardened NPL against it. This is a first. I haven't done something like this before. This feels are really good. I'm happy that you're enjoying this as much as I am. 'Cause this is my first as well. Isis giggled as she watched Seishin writhe in a new wave of pleasure. I also saw what Maria did. Seishin gasped when he heard her say that she saw him. A dark red blush colored his face before he was quickly taken aback by a soft giggle. That's okay. Isis continued. I know Maria was excited to thank you for all you have done. She couldn't help it as much as I am. But right now, I want to continue enjoying this moment with you. Seishin continued his moans as his head was snapped back and his eyes were clamped shut as Isis continued to probe his tip with her hardened butt, before wrapping it in her melons and the tip in her mouth. Her combined paizuri was too much to handle for Seishin, despite his being a little sensitive from their first orgasm, before surprising her with creaming her face and her chst. Isis and Seishin began to catch their breaths shortly after. Just then, Shamsiel appeared beside them giggling while swaying her tail. That's my MSTR. Shamsiel cried. Isis, are you alright? Seishin asked. Yeah, I'm fine. But, Isis surprised Seishin as she got on her hands and knees, turning around so she could show off her rear and the juices leaking out of her. With a smile on her face, she said, Seishin, can you give it to me one more time? Wow, Isis. You're really turned on. Alright then. Seishin said before turning to Shamsiel. Shamsiel, would you like to join us? I did promise you after all. MSTR. Shamsiel cried before she hugged him, while forming a heart with her tail. Shortly after, Shamsiel, now naked, was laying under Isis. Seeing their curvy bodies on top of each other made Seishin's member rock strong once more. He approached the two ladies before. Rubbing his drenched tip against their wet folds before Isis was the first to feel Seishin's embrace for 10 seconds before Shamsiel got to have her turn. Seishin calmly smiled watching the two feeling his embrace, but more to Isis, who was happy to feel his affections. Seishin. This feels so good. Isis cried out in sheer bliss. MSTR is amazing. Shamsiel added as she moaned out in pleasure. Seishin chuckled at the two ladies enjoying every minute of it. Seeing them happy and pleased is his small reward. His smile was then replaced with moans and groans as he felt his tensing up again. With the number of climaxes he had with Isis, he knows he couldn't hold it in much longer. Girls, I'm about to. Seishin groaned as he tried to hold it in just a bit longer. Let it out inside me, MSTR. Shamsiel cried. Do it in mine as well, my king. Seishin was surprised to see Isis call him king. I would be honored to have you as my husband as well, Seishin. Please, leak inside me. Isis. Seishin was taken aback before he let out a loud groan before filling Isis's WMB to the brim. Followed by filling Shamsiel's to the brim as well. Seishin, worn and tired, fell back, head first against his pillow. Isis and Shamsiel soon accompanied him, by laying on either side of him. Seishin. Would you make me the happiest princess knight and marry me? Isis asked him that question before he smiled at Isis. Well, my HRM is already getting bigger, so yeah. I would love to have you by my side, Isis. Seishin said before kissing her and Shamsiel. Let's get some rest. I got a duel with Isis to prepare for. Not without giving me your love, Seishin. Roxanne said as she stood in front of the three in bed. Seishin blushed a dark red as he saw her strip down until she's naked. A smile of love and lust appeared on her face as she approached them. What do you say? I know you still have some energy left, my love. Seishin tries to figure out an excuse, before he was stopped cold when Shamsiel and Isis were stroking his. MSTR. Shamsiel cooed. One last time, Seishin. Come on. Just for us. Isis begged. Sweet Kami of Takamagara. Seishin's voice squeaked knowing he's going to be dead tired in the morning. Before he could say, Shamsiel, Isis and Roxanne all jumped on him and began their love-making relationship with him. Unaware of their passionate night, the three generals ordered Wang Quan's execution. The traitor died by hanging. Meanwhile Glattus stood outside, gazing in the moonlight after wiping her polished blade with a smooth cloth before putting it back in its sheath. Seishin Samu. Glattus said as she remembered the smile on his face and how calm he was when the two last met. Our fated duel has come. Let me see just how strong you are. As Seishin slept, a familiar voice called out to him from his inner world. MSTR. The voice called him, which immediately woke him up, only to see that he's in his inner world. I'm back in my inner world, Seishin said, but what's going on? MSTR. The voice called him again only to appear behind him. It was the anomaly that helped him against his fight with Volt. It's you. You're the one who helped me the last time. Seishin said. Yes. The anomaly said as he shaped himself into Seishin's likeness. It took me time, but I am back to full power now. But I am here to warn you of a returning threat. It's Volt, isn't it? Seishin rhetorically asked, surprising the anomaly. I overheard it all the last time. Yes, MSTR, and I fear he'll return even stronger than before. He said. That's why, I want to help you MSTR this new power I have. I want to know something first. What are you exactly? Seishin asked, which the anomaly replied with a smile. I am like your friend here, a hollow, the anomaly said, which left Seishin surprised. I can teach you how to use my power, and to help you break Sabashal's grip. You know about Sabashal? Seishin was left shocked. Yes, MSTR. But it's going to take some time to do it. The anomaly said. Right now, you have a duel with this Glattus person. Win and save her, and later the training begins. The next day came as Glattus arrived at the kingdom once more. She told the guards that she's here for her duel with Seishin. As she waited, she saw the young man along with Isis, Roxanne, Zant, Felsen and Schlam. Even King Hegel joined in. The others stood at the far side of the field while Seishin and Glattus faced off. Thanks for coming all this way, Glattus. Seishin said. It's the least I can do for the man who I intend to defeat. Glattus replied as she drew her long sword out. I believe you told the others your secret, did you? Yes, I did. He replied. But I won't use my full power against you. It would be too much for you to handle. I would rather fight as normal warriors. That's understandable. Now then. Glattus entered her fighting stance, preparing herself. Shall we get to business already? Yes, we shall. Seishin said as he drew his Zanpakuto out in its sealed state. Glattus began laughing at Seishin's choice of weapon. Do you think that sword of yours has a chance against mine? Glattus rhetorically asked while smiling smugly at him, while Seishin remained unfazed. Do you think I'm some sort of fool? Looks can be deceiving, Glattus. Seishin chuckled calmly. Let's see just how a katana can outdo a long sword. This match shall end when either person yields. King Hegel announced. Seishin, are you ready? Yes, Your Highness. Seishin replied. Glattus von Wackenheim, are you ready? Hegel continued. Yes, King Hegel. She replied. Now that both fighters are ready, let the match begin. With those words from King Hegel, Seishin and Glattus immediately charged towards each other, their weapons firmly grasped in their hands. Once they both got close, both their blades clashed in an instant, with the sound of their clash reverberating through the air. Seishin quickly grasped the hilt of his Zanpakuto, and spun around before swngng his Zanpakuto. He's very skilled. No doubt about that. Glattus thought, as she watched the sword fly through the air, approaching her face. Glattus smirked before she leaned back, allowing the blade to fly inches from the tip of her nose, harmlessly. She then responded by turning her body in a full 360 to lunge her long sword towards his chest, only for Seishin to quickly counter her attack by parrying the blade away. Sparks from their blades flew over them before the two jumped back. Glattus, once she safely landed on the tips of her toes, charged towards Seishin like a blur flying through the air before jumping above him, raising her sword over her head. "She's quick, but this is nothing I can't handle," Seishin thought as he watched her blade whistle, cutting through the air as she aimed it towards his left shoulder, but he countered by running towards her shadow before sliding under her. Once he regained his footing, Seishin dashed towards Glattus the same way she did, in an attempt to disarm her of her weapon, but Glattus immediately clashed with him. The two glared at each other in a struggle on who has the stronger resolve. "You are an admirable fighter, Seishin," Glattus complimented. "Looks like I underestimated your fighting style and your weapon. I can see how that weapon of yours can handle volts." "I appreciate the compliment, Glattus. You're quite the skilled swordswoman yourself," Seishin replied. "Your father has trained you well." "Yes, his teachings have made me the best in the Adelant Kingdom, and leader of the rebellion after his passing," Glattus continued. "But you. I don't know how you're this skilled, but I must admit, you have such a powerful gift. Instead of executing you, why not work for me?" "Work for you?" Seishin questioned her before the two jumped back a few feet. "What are you offering, Glattus?" "I want you to join me, Seishin," Glattus answered. "With our skills and intellect, we can overthrow anyone that gets in our way. And I know you're fond of this kingdom, so that's why I won't invade or harm anyone here. All you have to do is join me." Seishin pondered over Glattus's offer. Seeing this kingdom and everyone in it safe from her invasion would be good for him, but if he joins her, what will happen to King Hegel and the others? Even Shamsiel, Roxanne and Isis. Even KUROINU would plan an attack on the kingdom without him protecting it. He continued to ponder over her offer for a moment, until he finally came up with her answer. "As much as I would like your offer, Glattus, I can't accept it," Seishin said. "If I leave this kingdom and join you, there would be others, hidden spies of KUROINU, plotting the time to invade. I must be here to protect them from any threat that would harm King Hegel or the kingdom." "I respect your decision, Seishin. But just remember, if I win, you'll be executed and this kingdom will surrender to me," Glattus said before she entered her fighter stance. "Shall we end this match?" "Yes, and it's time I get serious," Seishin said as he entered his horse stance. He took a deep breath before charging at Glattus in the blink of an eye. Glattus was surprised that Seishin was even faster. Glattus was able to react, barely, and clashed with his blade. "He's been holding back. Impressive." Seishin continued his assault by swngng his zanpakuto. Left, right, up, down, Seishin swings his zanpakuto faster and faster as it becomes harder for Glattus to track where the blade is. All she could do was use the flat end of her long sword to block as much of his attacks. "I can't guard against his attacks much longer," Glattus muttered as she felt the force of his attack. Her guard began to weaken with each swift strike against the flat end of Glattus's sword, until he was able to parry her sword out of her hands with swift finesse. Glattus, unable to maintain her balance from his final parry, fell butt first on the ground. As she looked up, she saw Seishin's blade nearing her chin. "And that's checkmate," Seishin said as he pulled his zanpakuto back into its sheath. He then held his hand out to the defeated warrior. "You fought well, but it's over, Glattus." Glattus looked down as she, an undefeated assassin and leader of the rebellion army, defeated by one who's equal. Each of his moves were exemplary. "Not even I can compete with that," Glattus thought. "Now that I know just how strong he was when he fought Volt, I have no regards. I concede, Seishin Samyu. Do as you wish, but leave my soldiers alone. If you want a prisoner, take me. Glattus said as she took his hand as he helped her up. The match is over. Seishin Samyu is the winner. King Hegel announced while Roxanne, Isis, Felsen, Schlam, and Zant all cheered for the young man. You are a strong fighter. It's a shame you denied my offer. You would have been an excellent second in command. Glattus continued. I appreciate the compliment, but my place is here, Glattus. Seishin replied. Maybe if you can reconsider. You can join my cause. Perhaps we can discuss, after the other thing. I will think about it. She replied with a calm smile, before some guards approached them and then took her to the dungeons. You won, Mr. Shamsiel cried as she hugged Seishin tightly with a smile on her face. Felsen, Schlam, Zant, Isis, Roxanne and King Hegel all rushed over to Seishin as they all cheered for his victory. Later that night, Seishin has a feast in his honor. The war generals, Roxanne and Shamsiel, Isis, and the war generals. Even Isis's mother, Eliza with her maid Maria and butler, Roderick joined in the celebration. They ate, drank and cheered for Seishin's victory. Seishin enjoyed every minute of it. While the others continued to enjoy their feast, Seishin had already left the dining hall, en route to the dungeons to see Glattus. In his hands, he has a tray of the food that he and the others were eating, along with a glass of wine. The young man approached the woman chained up against the wall. You have such strange fetishes, Seishin. Chaining me against the wall like this. Glattus said, until she saw the food he was holding. Is that for me? Of course. Prisoner or otherwise, I treat my guests fairly. Seishin replied as he helped feed her the food off the tray. After a moment of feeding her, he took a napkin and wiped her face. That meal really hit the spot. Glattus said before a smirk was formed when her red eyes matched Seishin's. I can tell you have another reason you're here. Another reason? Seishin questioned her. Don't you remember? Glattus asked him. You said something after you won our duel. Flashback. You are a strong fighter. It's a shame you denied my offer. You would have been an excellent second in command. Glattus continued. I appreciate the compliment, but my place is here, Glattus. Seishin replied. Maybe if you can reconsider. You can join my cause. Perhaps we can discuss, after the other thing. I will think about it. She replied with a calm smile, before some guards approached them and then took her to the dungeons. Flashback ended. Oh, yeah. That other thing. He said before a smirk was formed on both of their faces. That's right, hero. Glattus chuckled. Whichever of us leaks first loses, how about that? Hee. Challenge accepted. Seishin replied before he used his flash step and reappeared behind her. The red-haired male's hands reached out of her sides before he began feeling her melons. Glattus let out small grunts as she feels her melons being firmly caressed by her captor. She tries to resist this sensation that's slowly growing in her. Wow, her melons are just as soft as Evelyn's and Yoruchi's, but perky as Chloe's. He thought. I'll admit. Your melons did catch my eye. Seishin said. I didn't want you to think of me as a perv, since our first meeting, so I kept that thought to myself. You're quite the charmer, Seishin, but I only tell that to men I love. Glattus replied, while trying to keep her bearings. Before long, Glattus watched helplessly as Seishin slowly pulled up her CRP top, revealing her large melons. No man has touched my tips and lived to tell the tale. Glattus added. Interesting. Then I guess I'm the first to touch them. Seishin replied as he resumed massaging Glattus's melons. Glattus, Once again, tries to resist the sensation as she feels both her melons and her buds being teased. His hands. They're touching me in the right spots. Glattus thought. I must not give in. I must not. You like this, don't you? Seishin rhetorically asked. And no, I don't. Glattus begins to feel her resistance weakening, but she continues to fight it as long as she can. Until she accidentally lets out a gasping mm. You're good with your sword fights, but you suck at lying. Seishin cooed softly in her ear while his hands continued to knead Glattus's melons like it's clay. You're letting out some pretty lewd but attractive sounds right now. I was only breathing. Glattus tried to make another excuse, but it was replaced with another loud mmm with her eyes shut and her head raised upward, as Seishin lightly pinched her tips. Funny. You're much more sensitive than I would have expected, Glattus. Seishin said. My melons are not sensitive. Glattus rebuked. Then I guess I can tease them to my heart's content. Glattus watched helplessly as Seishin continued to tease and tweak her strong buds between his fingers, earning loud moans from her. He then planted his lips on her right breast, suckling on it softly a couple of times before pulling his lips off and eating her pink bud slowly. DMN it. AH. He's hitting the right spots. Glattus's body began to writhe from the growing sensation as Seishin continued to lick her tips with his eyes closed, taking turns and giving each of the two his love and affection. Glattus couldn't endure the pleasurable feelings coming from Seishin's magic touch. She muffled her squeals as she let out a small orgasm. Looks like you came a little. Seishin whispered softly in her left ear, giving her a small shiver up and down her spine. I didn't leak. Glattus muttered an excuse, though Seishin knew she was fibbing. Instead he continued by suckling on both of her melons. Glattus's moans grew louder as she felt her melons being sucked on and stretched out for a moment before Seishin began eating her hardened tips like a hungry pup wanting his mother's milk. And no. Don't suck my bub. Glattus begged, though Seishin continued. The young man heard her begs and decided to stop. Glattus was panting from enduring his touch for a moment, until she began gasping and moaning again. She opened her eyes to see Seishin eating her out from her drenched pee. She's persistent, I'll give her that. Seishin thought as he looked at Glattus panting harder while he continued to eat her out and tasting her nectar. Now will you admit that you came, Glattus? Seishin asked her, even though he knew what her answer was. I didn't leak. Glattus said in between her pants and moans. Seishin scowled at her stubbornness. He knew she came but refused to admit. Since you won't admit, even though you did, let us go to the main event. Seishin stood up and pulled his pants down slightly, just enough to show her his tower. Glattus gasped at his size and the fact that his prized glory would send her over the edge. Before she could react, Glattus felt Seishin putting his entire length inside her wet canal. Glattus moaned at the feel of his entire length snug inside her wet cavern, before he started bucking his hips, sliding his piston engine in and out of her. It's too much. Glattus squealed as Seishin went a little deeper inside her. I must say Glattus, you're pretty tight inside. It feels good. Seishin admitted before he planted his lips on her melons, suckling on it while holding her curvy rear under his palms. Stop it. Don't stmlt them both at once. Glattus begged as Seishin continued. All you need to do is admit that you came, Glattus. Seishin said as he went a little faster. I can't hold it much longer. Glattus thought as her red eyes matched his as his hung continued to push closer to her core. Lewd sloshy sounds we made from their hips clashing. Seishin, all this time he's been gentle with me. She continued. He's hitting all the right spots with such precision and ease, yet all he's giving behind all of this was his affection. I can't hold it much longer. Seishin continues to shower Glattus with constant pleasure as he drives his length close to her core. Her moans grew louder and her breathing has gotten heavier. Drool leaked out the right corner of her mouth while her body jiggled with each powerful move Seishin made. I can't hold it much longer. You're making me leak again. Glattus cried out. I knew it. Seishin said as he made his final push into her core. I'm leaking. Glattus cried out as she let out a mmm in orgasmic bliss, seconds before Seishin filled her core with his warm milk. Glattus, you. Seishin was about to say something until Glattus looked at his red eyes with a genuine smile on her face. Don't make me say it, you baka. You're my first man. Glattus said. And you were amazing. Glattus saw Seishin's blush darkened, which earned a chuckle from her. She leaned in and kissed his lips softly for a few seconds. I will no longer oppose you, Seishin. I'm your woman now. Glattus said. In fact, I'll join your cause. I'll gladly fight KUROINU alongside you, mighty king of Salinas. Thank you, Glattus. He kindly replied. I will warn you, I do have a HRM that's growing. As long as I am part of your HRM, then I am perfectly fine with it, my HRM king, Glattus said with a chuckle while watching Seishin pulling out the keys to her restraints. Hurry, and take these off so I can embrace you. Seishin smiled as he took the chains off of Glattus's arms, before surprising him with a tackle hug and a very passionate embrace. As Glattus began making out with her new lover, Shamsiel and Seishin's inner hollow appeared, watching the two hitting it off. A jovial smile and a giggle was worn on their faces, cheering at Seishin's new member to his HRM. MSTR is getting popular. Shamsiel said. I agree. Since our hero is occupied, I better send the king the good news. Seishin's hollow said as he created a scroll holding the confirmation of Glattus's conversion. The hollow phased through the cell door before disguising himself as one of the armored knights and left to deliver the message to the king. When he got there, he saw Prime Minister Ruben with him before he handed the message. Once the message was given, he left. What? Seishin coveted Glattus. The king exclaimed with a look of astonishment and a smile on his face. This calls for a ceremony. Guards. Gather as many men and women as possible. We must prepare for a ceremony and a parade next week. It's the birth of a new hero. As Hegel and the guards left his quarters, Ruben was left behind. The minister's fists tightened, causing veins to throb and his teeth gritted in anger. Yet another of his schemes was thwarted by Seishin. DMN that Samuel. Ruben thought. That mangy rat thwarted my scheme again. Next time for sure you will be ultimately destroyed. As for Motair, who overheard it all as he was on his way to see the king, he was overwhelmed with anger and jealousy at the news. Seishin Samuel. You will pay for ridiculing me. I will get you for this one way or another. He said. Unaware of both Ruben and Motair, Seishin's makeout with Glattus continued as she rode on Seishin's lap. Both of their red eyes met as she kissed him with such passion and lust. Lewd sounds from Seishin's length driving through her wet cavern as their hips clashed. Ah, yes. Seishin, do you like how I feel inside me? Glattus asked him in between her lustful moans. Oh, yeah. It's unreal, Glattus. Seishin replied as he watched her body jiggle and her melons bounced, before returning his sight to her red eyes. Oh, my sweet king, are you about to leak? Glattus questioned his approaching release. Release it inside of me, Seishin. I want it. Hearing the dirty talk from Glattus as well as her clamping her inner walls even tighter on his hung glory was more than enough for the Shinigami to go over the edge. Both Seishin and Glattus moaned loud and strong as they reached their climaxes and the red-eyed female felt his hot load fill her stomach, just as she wanted. Glattus was in euphoric bliss with her lover, while their mixed fluids leaked out of her and covered both Seishin's waist and her inner thighs. Feeling weak, she fell on his chest, her head nuzzled under his chin and her melons squished against his scarred torso. A smile was shown on her face, finally feeling content as she and Seishin cuddled together under a blanket. I think being your ally is going to be fun, my darling Seishin. Glattus chuckled as she planted soft kisses on his cheek. I definitely agree. Seishin replied before sharing a chuckle with her before they kissed while their arms wrapped around each other. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 16. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Takamagara 2012 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.